Hello, ball watchers. Welcome back to Ball Watching, sponsored by Hoffman Brothers. In this year, 2024, we are in season 2 of St. Louis City SC, and it feels like, Justin, it's been weeks since we last played, but it really hasn't. We are back on the road this weekend against the Houston Dynamo, but we've already featured against them twice this year, 1 and 2 against the CONCACAF Champions Cup in that tournament, where we won via the Kojima last minute winner, which was awesome. And then we lost in Houston and we got eliminated from the tournament. So a little bit of a history with them, and we'll get more into that. But before we get into that, Justin, I know we usually like to do our five-a-side, but I actually found something that I thought was worth just talking about, at least briefly, today. I'm not sure that you knew about it. I didn't know anything about it until I saw it yesterday. But for you all listening, this is cool when you think about expanding access to the game and trying to get more grassroots level with how we develop players and provide opportunities. So MLS Go. Justin, first of all, have you heard of this?
No, this is the first time I saw you put this in here, and you have a lot on it. I do think it's something cool that MLS is doing. It's really, I won't steal any of your thunder, but really getting more involved in the community and the youth aspect. And I think that's something that the MLS has when it comes from an academy aspect, but not like at a very young age, and also helping, I would say, more inner city kids as well.
Yeah, so I agree. I think that's a good summary of it. So long story short, the MLS announced partnerships with leading, United States Youth Soccer State Association, Youth Soccer Association, and one of them being the New Jersey Youth Soccer Organization. And this partnership is with MLS Go. So MLS Go is the youth recreational soccer program of the MLS to support access to, participation in, and the growth of the overall game for children across the country. These two organizations specifically, and why this partnership is cool, serve over 100,000 youth recreational soccer players in their local communities. And what MLS Go is trying to do is to let those organizations tap into MLS resources, and that's funding. I've seen playbooks with, at U5, at U6, U7, all the way through U15, I think U16. We know how you should be helping as a coach and as an administrator, helping evolve children, and develop them, and what you should be focused on at those age groups. Like, in the very beginning, it's fun. It's getting them down to the very basics. And then as you evolve over time, and for me specifically, I was spoken to by one of the quotes that I read from, I think, their vice president, Kyle Albrecht, and he had this to say. He said, partnering with Cal North and New Jersey Youth Soccer Associations is a testament to the vision of both organizations and the top-tier resources that MLS Go can provide. We look forward to continuing to grow the game at the grassroots level and increase participation and access to soccer through these partnerships and the implementations of the MLS Go Play Fund. Funding, always important, and the MLS Go playbook, which I alluded to. Justin, I'm all about making this game as big as it can be in this country, and I do not feel like it can ever be as big as any of the big sports in this country unless you get the foundation right. So to me, I like hearing this from the MLS. I think they got to take this seriously, and I think 2026 is another big time to prove that we're taking it seriously. So I like it. I think it's cool.
I would say it reminds me a lot of the NFL Play 60, which is getting kids out and trying to be active for 60 minutes a day. And I think this is cool for them to be able to go in and, no pun intended, to try to get more integrated into the youth level of soccer and just have it grow. And it's a perfect time for that. I think soccer is just skyrocketing right now in the U.S. when you think about Copa America and the World Cup coming here, and everybody's starting to get a little bit more in tune with it, with Messi coming across. So I think it's a perfect timing, and it's a good look for the MLS.
Agreed. Well, let's kick on, Justin, to some of the quick news for City before we get into the preview. First being from the last match day, so match day 10, not this one that just happened where we didn't participate in. Celio won the goal of the match day, which was cool. We highlighted that goal significantly in the goal vision, so make sure you go check that out if you haven't seen it. Toland and Klaus were on the match day 10 team of the week, deservedly so, both netting great goals against Sporting. And then Toland won the moment of the match day as well, which we covered extensively in Goal Vision in the last episode. So make sure you go check that out. And then finally, I'd say the biggest piece of news for me too, two things. One more celebratory, and the other one I'd say also celebratory, but a little bit more ho-hum, was Celio with the big contract extension through 2026 with an option for 27. Great to see us holding on to the value that he's provided, and at such little expense to us. He's been such a great gem to unearth from Lutz & Co. So I'm very excited for him. It's well deserved. I want to see him continue to grow his role at the club. And finally, the big Sam drama is big done, at least for now. Justin, any thoughts? I don't know if you've seen any of the quotes coming out of training this week, but sounds like he's not going to talk too much about it. But whatever happened is done and dusted.
No, he's back with the team. And when asked about it, he's basically saying that we're going to leave the past in the past. So, and I agree with that. Let's move forward. He's kind of talked about him hanging his hat on what he's done historically. And I think that's one thing that, that's what got him here. And that's why he's like, that's why I'm going to stay here, is because I'm going to be working towards that again going forward. So it sounds like it's all done. And it was all internal conversations per Carnell. So I think that's fine. Leave it that way. Let's move on like it never happened. And just something that also never happened. We didn't play in this last match day, but they have updated power rankings. So in MLS power rankings, we dropped from 15 to 17, who Houston is 16 as they continue to slide. And we'll talk about that later. And ESPN, we moved up from 18 to 16. So both, I would say, pretty similar, but still very early on with this as you talk about it. And then there was one thing that, Jake, that we can kind of touch on too, that we didn't get to touch on or go to in depth in our Gold Vision episode and stats about the MLS, but individual highlights of where some of these guys are on the team and the stats all across the MLS.
Yeah. So the stats I thought we thought were interesting for you all were, these are all individually, like where are our guys on these leaderboards looking league wide so far this year. The first one that sticks out to me is Klaus. He's number 8 in XG created. By the way, again, like you said, this is through match day 10. This doesn't include the match day we did not participate in. He was number 8 in XG created, number 10 in shots taken, and number 5 in aerial duels won, which you love to see him getting up and getting gritty out there. Adeniran was still number 9 in shots per 90, which just shows you what this guy is about when he's on the field. But I think the most decorated, if I'm not mistaken here, is Celio, who is number 10 in shots on target percentage, very effective getting those shots on net. Number 4 in goals minus XG. So basically your ability to outproduce the XG that you have. He has been lethal with his chances. He's number 10 in successful take-ons. So taking guys on the dribble, he's successful more than not. And then number 7 in progressive carries, and number 4 with those into the 18. So dangerous in the dribble, dangerous on the shot. Celio has been a tool this season, and I'm glad to see him get rewarded with a contract extension.
One that I'm going to talk on real quick, Jake, and kind of bounce around. So Durkin is number 8 in tackles, but he's also number 1 in fouls committed. That was after not including this past match day. He's now number 2. So with a whole game going on, he's only number 2 behind Benteke. So he still has 24 fouls, and he's a game behind. And one thing I'm going to jump around on real quick, Jake, is as I mentioned that, something now we need to keep an eye on is the yellow card count. So Durkin, Parker, and Totland all have 4 yellows. And if you guys remember, if you get a 5th yellow, then you're suspended for the next game. There is a good behavior policy to where if you get 5 games in a row without a yellow, then you can knock that yellow card count down by 1. However, none of those guys have reached that, considering we're 12 games into the season. So looking at it, Totland hasn't had one in the last 2 games. So he's starting to work towards that 5 in a row. But I mean, if he gets one anytime in the next 3 games, he'll sit a game. Durkin didn't have one last game. So if he gets one anytime in the next 4 games, he's going to sit a game. And then Parker got one versus Kansas City. So if Parker gets one anytime in the next 5 games, he's going to sit. So very likely, I would say at least Durkin and Parker, we're going to probably end up missing for a game for a suspension, not just an injury.
Yeah, good update, Justin. We do our best to keep an eye on that because it's very hard to go find that live count. And that's a big impact to be missing those guys. And we're obviously very close to missing some key players for an upcoming match. The final ones I wanted to read off here, Justin, before we get to the injuries and the preview was you said Durkin already. So Mark Hannick slide under the radar here. He does a lot of sliding as well. But Mark Hannick tied for number 5 in blocks and number 4 in percent of aerial duels won. So he's not the guy that's very big in stature, but he's effective when you are battling with him in the air, which is great to see. And he's getting in front of shots. So I'd love to see the blocks there. Totland is also number 5 in blocks with him, but number 2 in interceptions. So talk about a guy that can anticipate and stick himself in those channels and block those off. That is what Totland's bringing to us. Nilsson is number 6 in aerials won. We have a lot of guys on that list. And then Berkey is tied for number 1 in clean sheets. Not flying up there on the saves this year or the post shot XG minus goals against, but at least he's got those clean sheets, which he did not have too many of last year. So, kind of sacrificing one thing to gain something else. And I'm confident that he will climb that leaderboard as we get further into the season. But Justin, we're still dealing with some injuries. And it's just nagging us. A lot of them in the same area with central midfield, unfortunately. Chris Durkin was one that we heard about. He was absent from this past training. This is as of yesterday, Tuesday, the 30th of April. Had a knee contusion in a scrimmage they had, and he was I think they're taking it pretty precautionary and trying to be careful with him. It doesn't sound like it'll be any long term with him, but again, you don't like to see it to a guy that's been so crucial to us so far this season, especially with Leuven and Blum still running separate from the team. So I don't think we'll be ready for this weekend.
No, and then also we talked about it. Yaro's still going to be out for a while this week. He was working out inside, so not with the team either. So it is a tough spot. You and I were talking about it. We'll talk about it a little more with the starting 11, because if you think about it, we just listed Dirk and Blum and Leuven, the three guys that we thought were going to be just rotating in front of our back four. All three could possibly be out this weekend. I do have a little bit more optimism when it comes to Dirk and just picking up that knock in the City 2 game and basically just saying that we're just going to be kind of careful with it because we need to be at that point, right? With Leuven and Blum out for a little bit longer. So, but let's get into the Houston preview. I just said that really loud. The first thing that I wanted to note, Jake, was when I went to the Houston website, it's Star Wars night. It's May the 4th that we were playing these guys. I almost did the Star Trek thing. Yeah, there you go. We need to do a little bit more of that. Yeah. May the 4th. So they're having Star Wars night. So May the 4th be with all of you guys. Looking at last season real quick, how do we match up with Houston? A big 3-0 dub at home, an early PK from Leuven, Ostrak with a quick goal right after halftime, and then Nico with a late PK. Hector Herrera came on in the 60th, but it was too late for them to come back. Might see something similar as we talk into their players to watch coming up. And then away, it was a 1-1 draw. It was a tight game with a Klaus 82nd minute equalizer. So I would say at home, obviously, we played a little more dominant. If you look at Houston last year, I believe they were one of the best teams in the MLS when it came to playing in their home field advantage, but they were extremely weak when playing away. So it makes sense that we were only able to get a point on the road, but take 3 home at home. Yes, last year they were 11-2-4 at home, while 3-9-5 away.
Yeah, you're going to hope that we can write that. And I think it's still a decent time to play this team. And I'm saying that from a personnel perspective. So off-season wise, I think we covered a little bit the Champions Cup preview when we played against them, but they brought in 2 players of note for me, Griffin Dorsey and Jan Gregus. Griffin Dorsey, this is when you know it's been a slow off-season and when that's kind of your staple guy that you bring in. He's a right back. He was brought back after becoming a free agent. So he was with them before and then re-signed. And then Jan Gregus, who I already mentioned, really brings a lot of central midfield depth for them. He's kind of been around the block in the MLS. He's a Slovakian international, and he's played a lot for them recently because of their injuries. Outgoing-wise, they lost Corey Baird, who is now at Cincinnati, part of obviously a really great side there. And he was their starting 9 last year, scored most of their goals. So he's gone. I think they felt comfortable doing that because they were getting back their goal scorer, their DP, and Sebastian Ferreira, who is now hurt and has been hurt for most of the season. And then they have brought in they also got rid of Ivan Franco. He had a season-long loan from Libertad, and that ended. They did not bring him back, and they got rid of Tinaj Hidebe, I believe is what we went for on his name. Kind of fell down the depth chart. He's a center back and he ended up transferring out to the Turkish Super League. So those are some of the personnel changes, at least since we played them last season, that we wanted you all to know about. But this season, I don't know, Justin. I mean, how do you feel about the record so far as we get into this fixture with them?
I would say, I mean, they're one of those teams that I think started relatively strong and have really fallen off in the last couple of games. The one thing I do want to mention, Jay, too, you mentioned Griffin Dorsey. I know we have it listed down here further on, but he's going to be out in this game with a red card. He got a red card in the 5th minute last game, and it wasn't like a dirty challenge, and it was actually somewhat unfortunate. I think it was DC gets slipped in behind, and the forward does well to get in front of him, and Dorsey tries to switch to the other side and gets his feet tangled up. Last defender red card, so he'll be out this game, but specifically in 2024 for Houston, they are 9-4-4, win-loss draw, 8th in the West. Whoa, sorry. Wow, I apologize, Jake. You're right. They are not 9-4-4. That was a hot mistake. They are 4-4-1, win-loss draw, 8th in the West. That was an absolute fat finger with 13 points. They're just 1 point ahead of us in the standings. We already mentioned that they're usually better at home last season, at least, than they were on the road. This season at home, they're 2-2-1, and they're 2-2-0 away with only 9 goals for and 10 goals against. What's very interesting about that stat, and yes, that seems extremely low when you talk about them already playing 9 games, their goals for is second least in the MLS behind the Revs, who have 6 goals for and 4 points total. Their goals against, though, are second least given up in the MLS, time behind Atlanta, Columbus, Cincinnati, and RSL. They each have 9, while they've given up 10.
I'm perplexed in this team a little bit because I do feel like they're outperforming where I would expect them to be given their key injuries and their strength of schedule, because you look at it, a couple marquee matchups already this season, and they've played Columbus twice, which in my eyes, Columbus is the pinnacle right now in the MLS. That's at least how I see it. I think Wilfred Nancy has done a fantastic job with that team. They're obviously still competing on the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. So Columbus they had a loss against them at home. And they went to Columbus and drew them, which I was impressed by. They also won at Minnesota, and Minnesota's had a heck of a start to the season as well in the Western Conference. So they're also, though, coming back. We're going to meet them after back-to-back losses against two teams that we've also played against, and I feel like been by far and away the better team against, and that's Austin and Dallas. So they lost to Austin and they lost at Dallas 0-2. So it's like, depending on the day, you don't know what you'll get with them. I think you know what you'll get in terms of this team. To me, especially at home, in my opinion, will be very, very hard to beat, not necessarily playing you off the pitch. And who's going to be doing that for them? It's funny because the turnover on these guys has happened a lot since our last preview, but Ibrahim Aliu is their striker. He's a 22-year-old striker from Nigeria, 6 foot flat, 170 pounds. He was signed last April from the Croatian First Division. Not often you see those signings coming from there. This season, he's got 3 goals, which is their team high, 1 assist. He's playing all but 9 minutes in those first 9 games. So he's been a crucial cog in their system, and I think a guy that they've relied on, especially missing Ferreira, like I mentioned, and obviously transferring out Corey Baird. So they've looked to him to provide those goals this season.
Yeah, and he's taken by far the most shots on the team with 21. The next highest is only 10, and the most shots on target with 11 versus the next highest being 4. So he's already tied the amount of goals that he had last season with 3, and he only played in 13 full 90s last year. So he's already off to a way better start this year. Also on the team, Amin Bassi, 26-year-old midfielder from France, 5'8", 160. He's this is his second season with Houston. He came from France's second division, where he had 29 goals and 22 assists across 151 professional games. This season, 0 goals but 2 assists in almost 6 full 90s. The one reason we kind of wanted to include him here is he's tied for 9th best in expected assists per 90 and 6th in shot creating actions per 90 when looking at across the MLS.
Yeah, he's a playmaker. I mean, and I think we benefited from not having to face him, I think, in our first matchup in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But this is the guy that is their creator, and Aliu is the finisher at this point. Artur is the killer, the punisher. He is the central midfielder, Brazilian, 27-year-old from, like I said, like Brazil, and he is a bully in the midfield and also a controlling player. He can get physical, but he is the guy that sprays those passes and kind of dictates how they play. He leads the team in minutes so far this season. I think he's played in all but 1 minute, and also has some assists with 3. He has the 7th most touches on the ball in the MLS. And like I said, he's an assister as well. So look for this guy to kind of be, I'd say, kind of their cog, like we picture Leuven when he's healthy for us. A lot of things will stem from him and flow through him on the field. Who are they maybe going to have, maybe not going to see a whole lot of? Ache. Hector Herrera is coming back from injury. We did not play against him in our first couple matches in CONCACAF Champions Cup, but he just returned, obviously being laid off for a while with his injury. He logged 23 minutes in the last match. Don't know if he'll be 100% ready to go for this one. I imagine it becomes another cameo type game for him. But again, 30 minutes of Hector Herrera is enough to make a difference in these games. So I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah, last season he had 17 assists across the 30 games played. So he's a main guy for Houston. And it's been hard for them, I think. And that's kind of probably a main reason as to why they've not been scoring goals as much in these first 9 games. Franco Escobar, central midfielder. He has the 4th most dribblers tackled in MLS. Steve Clark, the goalkeeper, 9th highest save percentage. I'd say that's, when you think about that, that's probably about mid-tier or so. But he is doing what he needs to do to keep the goals out, having second least allowed goals this season. Jan Gregus, which you already mentioned, coming in from he's a central midfielder, 8th best pass completion percentage. This is a team, and we'll talk about it in their playing style, that likes to keep the ball. And we already mentioned Griffin Dorsey, who's their right back, is out from a red card in that Dallas game.
So Ben Olsen is the coach in his second year with Houston, plays a 4-2-3-1 typically. I have some notes here, Justin, from when we played them last. From my perspective, this team liked to sit in, and pick kind of their moments when to pressure, when to try to force turnovers in dangerous positions. They often, I feel like, went long in our games and just chased it down and looked to hit us on the counter or via fast break from a guy like Aliou. And they did a good job, I think, staying very compact and trying to clog up the middle of the field. And you could see when their average position map kind of came out of where their players tended to, locate to. It was very, very centralized. Now, having said that, I mean, they've been playing without Hector Herrera for a while, Sebastian Ferrer for a while, and they've kind of had to adapt, in my opinion, because you're seeing them play differently. For example, they are 24% of all their shots right now are headers. That was not the same last year. They're the third highest heading team in the league. And it's not because they have like Benteke up front. It's because they've had to kind of adjust how they want to try to find chances and make the most out of them. And I think the real modification has also come in possession. They have the second highest rate of 9+ pass sequences, trailing behind Puig's Galaxy, the LA Galaxy. And they are a very slow team in build up. They have the slowest speed across the MLS. They're very, very methodical and patient in their build-up. This isn't going to be a high-flying Houston team that we're going against. So just a couple of things to consider from Houston.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to look at, Jake. I would say they are the fifth most passes completed in MLS behind Miami, Columbus, LA, and Kansas City. And that is with a very high pass completed percentage at 86. So it is one of those teams that is going to try to break you down and work through you, which I'm not overly concerned about. But let's get into the trends and the storylines a little bit more specific on how they have been. Their last 5 home games is a draw, loss, win-win, loss with a 1.40 points per match at home. And then also their strength, I would say, during those chances that they create, it's a lot through a little individualistic skill and then try and protect leads. That's why I think, and we'll talk about it more on like our keys to the game, but it is something that they are starting to work through teams, and it will rely on some of their key players. But offensively, their XG of 1.19 per 90 is 21st in the MLS. Remember, there's only 29 teams. Average of 1.0 goals for per game is tied for second to last. So the offense has just not been there. Their home form specifically picks up a little bit. The 1.54 XG is 16th in the MLS, and they have 5 of their 9 goals for while they're at home.
Yeah, and they're scoring about a goal a game clip for those home games. 44% of those goals for are coming in the final 15 minutes of the match. So they're oftentimes waiting till death. And if I look at set pieces in open play for this team, set pieces, they have the third worst XG generated off of set pieces, and they're tied for second last in goals. So not a big piece of their game. In open play, you'd think to have a little bit of a compensation there, but no, they actually have the second worst XG from open play as well. So just looking at chance creation across the board, a lot of passes, a lot of possession, but a whole lot of nothing as well coming out of that. You already mentioned the passes, Justin. They have the number 2 most possession in the MLS this season, tied for number 1 in goal scoring actions from take-ons, though. So a lot of individual brilliance, like you mentioned, in some of their strengths. They carry the ball a lot. They're number 5 in total carrying distance. And I mentioned possession stats already with their speed. They also, like I said, have the second longest kind of sequence time and the second most passes per sequence. So again, they'll look to knock it around a lot. And so I think one of the keys, I'm jumping ahead a little bit for us, is going to be picking our moments and kind of knowing when to lay off, let them play with that ball in their own defensive third as long as they want, and kind of picking our line of engagement.
Yeah, and we talked about their defense, and that I think that's why it gets so methodical, is that they try to get up and get a lead, and then they will just pass the ball. And you already mentioned with how much they pass already, but their XGA of 1.34 per 90 is top 10, along with their actual goals allowed per game of 1.11 is also top 10. At home, it's even a little better. The XGA at home of 1.06. They've only given up 5 of their 10 goals while they're at home. When do those typically come? 30% of them come in the last 15 minutes a game, and then 20% of them come right after the second half starts as well, from the 46th to 75th. So the majority of their goals do come in the second half. Maybe that's something I might do a little look and a little bet.
I like that. And then defensively, from open play and set pieces, they have the second worst expected goals against in open play. So open play seems to be the place to get them on. Set pieces, they're about average in shots allowed on set pieces and XG and goals. So, you can get at them. It's not like they have a huge weakness back there. I do think open play tends to be the area. A couple of interesting ones I found here, Justin, where we're on the press. They're a top 10 team in terms of trying to disrupt build up from other teams. and above average in other types of categories like passes per defensive action and gegenpressing, but nothing crazy. And in terms of saves and what we expect from Steve Clark, their goalie, he's been pretty solid this season. He's bottom 10 in saves, but I think for a reason, kind of like we see with Berkey, it's not like they've been peppered with shots. They've obviously scrounged out some wins and some results where they've had to. But when he has been forced into action, he's been pretty solid with his save percentage. They have a +3 post-shot XG minus goals against, which again just kind of suggests at its very most minimalist summarized view that Clark has maybe effectively saved 3 of those goals that you wouldn't normally expect to on the XG kind of scale. So Justin, looking at this match, hearing more about Houston, knowing at least I feel like what our form was heading into this, what do you kind of want to see from City to make sure that we can, I'm saying get a result, Justin, but I really do feel like this is a game that we should aim to win. And it's not because Houston's bad. I just feel like this, at one of these points, you've got to go and take Houston or take any team away by the scruff of the neck and say, we're taking all of them.
No, I completely agree. And I do want to share this graphic real quick, Jake, that you put in here just to show the completely different styles of play between us. When you look at all of these MLS teams, that we are literally up in the upper left of this graphic for anybody that cannot see it as one of the most fast and direct teams in the MLS. And looking down at Houston, they are literally the most slow and intricate team. So this is going to be one of those, unstoppable force against an immovable object. Something's got to give. This game's either got to pick up or slow down on one of these sides. And the one thing that I'm going to look for in that, Jake, I really do think I agree with you. I don't think that this needs to be one where we need to go get points. It's one that we need to win. This is a team that's coming off of 2 losses to, I would say, Austin, who has kind of been moving up the leaderboard, but has not been that great of a team. And then also FC Dallas, which has been absolutely awful. So with a team that has been on back-to-back losses, yes, they're going back home. They're just not creating enough firepower and excitement out of this team. And I think we need to be the ones to take it to them and speed this game up.
Agree. I think that's a good key. I think for me as well, and I think you've already mentioned some of it, is just balance, is knowing when to press the living hell out of this team and make them uncomfortable in their possession and build up, because they're going to try to do a lot of that. And then also knowing when to sit back. And like I said, let them have it in those not dangerous areas. We don't need to run our tails off in areas where we might want to just take a break a little bit. I mean, this is going to be a long game. It'll probably be pretty warm in Houston. It's known to be like that. They're a top team in a lot of possession-based categories, including field tilt, possession in your defensive third and their attacking third. So, you're not going to be able to just constantly take the ball off them. They're going to be good knocking it around. So just pick and choose your moments. And I do think this is another game for me too, where it's not going to be littered with chances either. They're a good defensive team. They make it very hard to come in and beat them. So I think for us, we're going to get those chances, maybe not a lot of them. So we've got to be able to finish. You've got to take your chance when you get it. They tied us. They're tied with us at number 1 in touches conceded in their own 18. So they can be gotten to, and you can find your moments there. But I think for us, it's not that we're not going to have those moments. It's that if it's Klaus, if it's Celio, if it's Alm, if it's anyone on this team, you've got to have that composure to just put it away and knowing that you're not going to get many of those.
And specifically, Jake, as you mentioned that, my goal for this game is for us to score first. I think it's a nightmare if we give up a goal. This is already a possession-based team that then they're going to sit in, and then they would pass it around, and then we'd be the ones chasing, and then we get out of position, trying to press them and get a ball back, and they could easily score a second one, and then I would say it's over. If we give up 2 goals in this game, especially the first 2 goals, we're not making a comeback with this defense and how they play. So my goal to the game is to score first.
I like that. I am going to go clean sheet here for us. I think a clean sheet is my goal, and I think we're fully capable of doing it. We're obviously doing well this season so far in that department. And one of the things I want to kind of bring into that goal is this is a team that likes to do cutbacks. It likes to do headers, like I already mentioned. They use, the cutback cross, whether that's lofted or on the ground, the 3rd most in the MLS. For our defenders, Justin, you've lived this life before. Got to get that butt, got to get that back on the goal side, and you got to be, very, very tight with your defender, watching out for any late arrivals or runners into the box. You got to be first that ball. You got to be just hungrier than the fellow opponent. And the fun fact here I found, Justin, in our analysis was right now we have the best expected goals against away in the MLS. So we're giving up the least in terms of expected chances to opponents. So I hope we can bring that approach into this game and really just kind of strangle any sort of offense that Houston tries to bring to us.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I actually love that stat That's something that I think we needed to improve on last year. Is we already are a fortress at home when it comes to scoring goals and or not conceding when we're at home and winning games. If we can apply that to the away games, that'd be pretty exciting.
I agree. So let's get into our Hoffman Brothers starting 11 here, Justin. Before I do, I have got my tune-up tomorrow on May 2nd. I'm so excited for my AC to have them come out, check things out, and make sure everything's running correctly before I push this thing to the max when the summer heat comes in and it's 100 degrees. And make sure, and I'll document that experience, make sure you guys can all get a piece of what it is to be part of this home protection plan with Hoffman Brothers. So don't worry, that will be coming, but make sure that you all do the same. If you haven't flipped that thing on yet, first of all, don't know how, because it's been pretty warm already this spring, I guess. Record highs, obviously. But two, don't just flick it on and not think about the ramifications of what's could be impacted or downstream if you do. Don't be caught out in these moments in this 100+ degree heat that's coming here very shortly. Make sure you reach out to Hoffman Brothers at 314-664-3011 or reach out to them online and see what they can do for you at hoffmanbros.com.
And more specifically, Jake,
I
was going to say more specifically, if you wait, you're going to have extremely long wait times if you want to get around that. If you're a home protection plan member, you get priority service and your system will not be the one that's waiting like all the other people out there that are just like, oh, it's 100 degrees. Now my AC doesn't work. I need you guys here ASAP. Well, a lot of companies are going to take a couple days, if not a week. So get a home protection plan and beat it to it.
Love it. And that's like the equivalent, like the fast pass at Disney World, man. It's great. I love being a home protection plan member. Hoffman Bros are hooking it up, and they can hook you up. So make sure you give them a call. But on to the Hoffman Brothers starting 11. This one was difficult, Justin. I feel like I say it every week, but it's for what feels like a different reason every week. And it's only difficult because of just the mounting injuries we have in the same position. So for me, I'm actually going to the same lineup that we started our last game with, but I do want to call out central midfield as an area of debate because we just might not have Durkin available. I do feel like they'll treat that situation very delicately because God forbid he gets on a 2, 3, 4 week 2-month bender and we're out. So I'm going to go Berkey. I'm going back to Marcanic still. He's maintaining his spot in the left back for me. Hebert and Parker. I know Nilsson. There's been no mention of Nilsson in the injury news, so I assume that he is back. But again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not one to just throw him back in when Hebert, I think, has acquitted himself relatively well. Even I could say, I would see maybe Hebert maintain, you could see Parker. I don't know, but I'm going back to my normal back four of Marcanic, Hebert, Parker, and Totland. How about you?
I agree with that. I would say if Nilsson's healthy and absolutely fully healthy, I'm okay with playing him. It's been 2 weeks. We haven't heard any mention of it. So I have a feeling that we could see a start with him and Parker in the back. I'm cool with Marcanic and Totland there. Then we have Durkin and Ostrak. We already mentioned Durkin may have a knock, something that we would say, oh, well, then we'll just put Blum or Leuven in there. Obviously, those guys are still training on the side as well. So then the question is, Jake, do you drop in like an Indy to play next to Ostrak? Or possibly we could see Akil Watts playing there, which we saw a little bit last year.
I am fan out of just pure need and necessity of an Ostrak Indy holding midfielder. I don't think that's either of their best positions, but I think between them both, we could probably get away with it. And they've both played there before. I'm not a fan of the Watts as central defensive midfielder. One, has he played a minute this season, and he's going to come in and just start now on a position that I don't feel like is his strong suit. This is nothing against Akil Watts. I just think that right now his best skill set for us is at right back, and I know they've looked to experiment in the central midfield. I'm not a fan of that. So that I would line up. If Durkin's not there, I'm bringing Indy back and saying you're gonna be uncomfortable for this one, but you've done it before. Do it again.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. And then in front of them, obviously, then it would be Celio, Indy, and Alm, depending on if we have to bring Indy back. And then with the big man class up top, one thing I'm going to mention: Sam's back on the bench. We'd also have AZ still coming off the bench there. And this is Sam's hometown. Don't forget that he played down in Houston from there. So I think that if he gets a chance to get on, he's going to go absolutely balls to the wall after everything that's kind of gone on. And then also kind of a little bit of homecoming from him. So could do a little sprinkle on a Sam anytime goal as we kind of get into the best Jake. But I would say specific individual player props right now are not available until we get closer to game time.
Yeah, unfortunate. I don't think this is a game for Sam until the end. I think it's a perfect Sam late cameo with tired legs because it'll be a possession game. But I think what you said is perfect on par with me. I guess if Indy's sliding back, probably AZ starts this one. But I'm optimistic either way. Both you and I are predicting the dub this weekend, which is exciting. I have a 1-0 nervy one. You have a 2-0, which I would much prefer. But Justin, getting into the betting side of things with our Grahammer. Money lines, City is at plus 275, Houston at minus 115, the draw at plus 250. The over-under is probably the lowest in terms of odds that we're going to see all season. The over 2.5 is at minus 120. The under 2.5 is at minus 110. You just don't see that over number being like that, so close to even money. But where are you putting your money here, Justin, this weekend?
Jake, as we look more and more at it, I mean, I already told you this every time. Everybody knows when we are this big of underdogs, I'm going double chance. Double chance is minus 130. So if we tie or win the game, your bet hits. But now the more I read into this, Jake, like, why is that? So that over under is so low. Both teams to score is minus 140. However, when you go to team props, Houston Dynamo to score a goal is minus 575. Houston to not score a goal, Jake, so clean sheet, as you were saying, would be a key, plus 350.
I know.
I might do a little sprinkle on that for them. Or them under 1.5 is minus 130. I don't see it. Why would we be giving up 2 goals to a team that has been one struggling of late and have scored 9 goals in 9 games? And with a defense that we have with Roman Berkey in the pipes, I might hammer them to do under 1.5 at minus 130, and then a little sprinkle on their under a half a goal, so not to score at plus 350 as well.
I like that you found that because I found that last night. And I didn't have the balls in me to make that my Grahammer because it's just so hard to just do that. So you know what? I'm going to just modify. It's not my Grahammer. I'm riding with you on the double chance for my Grahammer, but I'm going to just do a light smack on that clean sheet as well. So that's what I will do to make sure that I'm putting some on that too. I think that would be a fantastic one to
Jake,
hit.
how about this? I'm going to make my Grahammer them not to score a goal plus 350. Let's do a switcheroo here. I'm going to blow you out of the water.
I love
Houston is not scoring on Saturday night in Houston. We're going to get a clean sheet. Go Mr. Roman Berkey, Nilsson and Parker back there. If not, it's going to be Hebert. They're not scoring. Plus 350 is my Grahammer.
Ooh, that is spicy. I love to hear it. Justin, we made it through a whole show here. Nothing else from us, but I do want to say our friend Luis over at Soul Juice, first of all, shout out to you all. He loves to show you all love. He said, you guys are awesome. Some of you guys are going to Deerberg's, coming out with full cases, asking for the guy in the back to make sure he goes and digs that out for you. So shout out to you all. And make sure that if you all want to see this, be brought into Costco's here in St. Louis area, I know we have at least 2, right? He's expanding all over the place in Costco's right now. Make sure you ask if you're a Costco customer, if they can bring Soul Juice here, because that's what he needs. It's word of mouth. Like it's that type of power that we all have. You can make a difference there if you want to get that. And I know Justin, he expanded all of the on the runs as well. So I mean, Soul Juice is just on a freaking tear.
Dude, he just popped up in Hawaii. Now he's also in Virginia, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, all in like the past week and a half, plus the on the runs. Go get it at a gas station. If you're going to soccer practice, perfect thing to grab for during and after practice as well. Go get some Soul Juice, or to go to souljuice.com, use code BALLWATCHING for 20% off. Go look at our story. Go look at the cases that we just had delivered for us. We get our little monthly subscription of Soul Juice. Kevin or Twins just shared it on their page. I will be hooping with them at some point, Jake. I promise I will make it happen. The last thing I'm going to say, I mentioned it in our episode on Sunday. I'm going to be at the pitch all weekend. Friday night, I'm going before the Zach Bryan concert. Already locked it in. And I will also be there Saturday. I have a golf tournament during the day, and I'm going to go watch the game at the pitch on Saturday. Get to the pitch, frozen Irish coffees, a little warm out there. Go there, cool off, have a nice, relaxing time on their couches in the lounge areas, and go support City.
Good stuff there, Justin. I hope your dreams come true with the hooping with the Kevin Twins. One can dream. So if you all can channel a little bit of that and make sure we manifest it for Justin, I'll be manifesting a dub for City this year and this weekend on the road. No more draws. I just don't. I'm allergic to them at this point. No more draws. Let's get a dub. I think Houston's a good place to go and do that before we start having some tougher fixtures coming up on the calendar here. And hopefully you all enjoyed this preview. It's good to be back. We'll be back again on Sunday for a recap of the match in the morning. So make sure you grab some coffee and tuck in with us. It's going to be a nice show. But everyone have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the weather here in St. Louis, and we'll be with you all on the weekend. In the meantime, roll City.
All for